Let's say it's a Saturday and you decide to skip service and you didn't want to go door to door. And let's say you went out shopping or something. You went to the movies. God forbid somebody from the Kingdom Hall sees you. What's up, y'all? It's been a while, but we're back at it. I've been busy working on a couple of different jobs, and now I finally got some more time to devote into my YouTube channel and making more videos. I was working on a couple of things and planning on building a community, but that just crashed and burned due to my ambition, essentially, of taking on too many things at once. But I'm working on a few things, and I'll be happy to announce that coming soon. We literally just had an earthquake here in Bangkok 2 days ago. Thankfully, nothing happened to my room or myself. I'm fine. But the city is built on a swamp, so the slightest movement of the ground, of the earth, will just disrupt everything. A few people have reached out to me on message and everything, and got me thinking on, like, man, this is the last days. It was crazy. Public transportation was shut down for 24 hours. You had people walking on the streets. It was insane. But, everything's back to normal now. But in today's video, I just want to talk about why so many people are leaving Jehovah's Witness. It feels like every week, there's somebody posting a video on what causes them to wake up and why they're finally leaving. And it's always cool to hear someone else's perspective, because what causes people to leave and wake up are very different. It's very individualized. So after watching a fair bit of content and also making some of this content myself, I've narrowed it down to, I think, 4 reasons why people are leaving Jehovah's Witnesses. I feel like everyone's stories fall into one of these 4 categories. The first reason is simply burnout. As a witness, you basically have a second full-time job on top of the job you have. You got a couple of meetings you got to go every week, which in itself, that's already like a 5-hour affair, because the meetings, they're about 2 hours each. You have one midweek and one on a weekend, but it takes you, a good hour to get ready for it. And then you got to come home and then you got to eat and then all this stuff. It's like a good 4 or 5 hour chunk that is devoted to meeting night. And I feel like the one on Sundays is damn near the whole day. The whole day is taken up, in my opinion, if I remember my own experiences. On top of that, you have the field ministry, right? Which is, as if you're not a witness, that's the one that they go door to door talking to people about the religion, which now I'm not sure how much of that they're doing. I've been out of it for like over a year. I haven't really been keeping up with them. But normally that's, a good 10, 15 hours a week as well that goes into that. And then on top of that, you got your personal study, right? Preparing for the meetings, preparing for the field ministry. And if you got parts at the meeting, meaning you have to get on stage and do a talk or something, that also eats into your schedule. So, when you think about it, this is like a good solid 30-hour second job that you have. And if you work a job already, then you're already working 40 hours. And this, essentially, you're doing 70, 80 hours a week of work. So naturally, this would just burn you out over time. And, you also have to remember, it would be one thing if when you're at these meetings, if you're out in service, it was like nice and relaxing. But it's not. You have to be on during these hours. So if you have something that you enjoy watching, you have a show you like to watch, a movie you like to watch, you have to kind of think about, man, who can I talk to about this? Should I mention this to somebody or not? Let's say it's a Saturday and you decide to skip service and you didn't want to go door to door. And let's say you went out shopping or something. You went to the movies. God forbid somebody from the Kingdom Hall sees you, because that would be a very awkward conversation on that Sunday. And I don't know about you guys, but I was just thinking about my own experiences. When I was a witness, the JW job that I was on, basically the job of being a witness, those 30 hours that I devoted to the organization, was much more tiring and much more taxing than like my main job that I had. Because so much of it goes into upkeeping the image of being a witness. And I was quite indoctrinated, so I kind of liked that JW lifestyle, but even then, it wasn't my authentic self. And I felt myself being burnt out at times. And if you were like a pioneer, if you're an elder, if you basically had any level of responsibility in that organization, that burnout is real. So all of that burnout may cause somebody to wake up, because they may start to think, okay, if this is the way God intended us to live, then, this is wrong because I'm like dying over here. Or honestly, some people don't even wake up from the religion. They just straight up leave. They don't even go through the process of deconstructing. They kind of do that after they leave. But they feel like I just need to get out because I'm dying here and I can't take another minute of this. And they basically just have a meltdown. So some people may wake up during that process, some people may not. But yeah, the burnout is real from being a witness. And I know that you experienced some of this on certain levels too, back when you were in. So go ahead and tell me what happened to you as far as burnout down below. Number 2, this one is hypocrisy. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses are the way the brand of their religion is that is very clean, it's very pure, right? It's a perfect organization with imperfect people in it. I want to vomit every time I say that statement because it's been said so many times throughout my life, and we all know it's not true. So they present a very squeaky clean brand to you that this is a perfect organization. The hypocrisy and all of that happens in other religions. Those are false religions, but not here, right? Everything here is perfect as far as doctrine and theology, not human conduct. But if you look very closely, there's hypocrisy, nepotism, favoritism, all the isms that you would see in any other corporation, any other man-made corporation inside this organization. And that will start to trigger critical thinking in people. It didn't do it for me, though. My head was thick. My indoctrination was like nothing else. So I always defended the organization no matter what happened. But for a lot of people who are smarter than me, they would wake up to this. I guess I shouldn't say smarter. I feel like it has to do with honesty more than anything, because if you think back to that organization, there's a lot of smart people in that organization. There's people with degrees, there's people who are lawyers, but you can always trick yourself and do mental gymnastics into believing that it is the true religion and stay in it for any other reason. So I guess the people who were more honest and raw and real with themselves, this would wake them up. You would have somebody do something wrong in the congregation, and if their dad was an elder or anything like that, and they were in relation or in proximity to somebody in position of power, they would just get a slap on the wrist. That same thing can happen to somebody who was kind of like the black sheep in the congregation. They weren't well liked for whatever reason. Instead of getting just treatment, they would be punished. And I saw this even back when I was at headquarters. Obviously, I dismissed it. But I saw this even back when I worked at headquarters. For example, they had a rule that you shouldn't, this was back when you had to work until 5 p.m., right? That's the end of the workday. So if you were an office worker, you couldn't leave work until 4:55. That's the earliest you can leave. But if you did like manual work, like, cleaning or construction or anything like that, maintenance, and you had to shower and you had to get cleaned up, you could leave work 10 minutes earlier at 4:50. I remember I was doing carpet cleanings. That was one of the jobs that I had at the time. You would see people who worked in Bethel office, part of the people who made the rules for Bethel. They'd leave work at like 4:40. People in high responsibility. One time I saw David Splain go home at 2:30. But like I said, my indoctrination was strong. So I just thought, hey, these brothers, they got hard work to do. Now it's just hilarious thinking about it. I would tell myself, he's just going to go home and he's going to do more work from home. I don't know. It's incredible how far the mind can stretch, right? And of course, there's favoritism, right? Everything was a boys' club. You would see people who would get prominent positions of responsibility, not based on spirituality or character or anything like that, but based on who they hung out around. Were they well liked by the people in power? And of course, the other classic example is, the hypocrisy when it comes to higher education. The organization tells you not to go to college, right? To put spirituality first, but you would get people into headquarters, into Bethel, who had special skills, who went to college, and they would be put in high position of responsibility, which if you were a good JW who didn't go to college, you got to be sitting there scratching your head a little bit. Like, what was that about? And, I can go on and on, but there's numerous examples of this happening at the headquarter level, at the congregation level. You probably have seen your own corruption and politics in your local congregation. So we all love hearing stuff like that. So you can share that down below as well. So far we talked about burnout being a major reason, hypocrisy being another reason. The next one is mistreatment. Now this one is a wide range. It could be anything from you doing a normal human thing, like going out there and having sex, which is a normal human desire. Nothing wrong with that. I don't know why the organization vilifies it so much. You go out there, you find somebody that you connect with, you sleep with them, normal human thing to do. Or you have normal human desires of choosing a partner, maybe of somebody who is of your own gender or whatever. You listen to your own body and you choose your own desires. And they penalize you for that, and they shun you for it. So that's one level of mistreatment, all the way to you being like a CSA victim, and they just kind of cover it up. So mistreatment happens a lot in this organization. People are unjustly treated, and they're either disfellowship, they get shunned for it, and that causes people to wake up as well, because this is supposed to be a loving organization. What I experienced was not love. And we all know CSA is a big problem in this organization as well. I feel like this one is in two categories. If CSA happened to you and you were a victim, then I guess this would be in the mistreatment category. But if you were many witnesses that never experienced CSA, but you saw something like the Australian Royal Commission, I guess that would be in the hypocrisy category, where this is a systematic issue happening in this organization where that's hypocritical, and then that wakes you up. But yeah, this one is just going to be short for me because I was never really mistreated in the organization. I didn't have experience of racism or anything like that. I was not a CSA victim. I was never unjustly punished for anything, never disfellowship. But I know this is a big issue and this does cause people to wake up. And this is one of the many reasons why people wake up from this religion, or I should say cult. And the last reason that caused people to wake up, this one is doctrine. And this is the category I fell into. And the category for this one is quite wide and varied too, because there's many things about the doctrine that could wake you up, right? It could be like the blood issue. If you decide to do more research on that, you'll find out that there is no strong scriptural argument to not accept blood. Even medically, there's ways to check if it's safe for you to accept blood transfusion or not. So the whole, like, you're safer if you don't accept blood transfusion, that's dumb. It can be that route. It could be just the many other things about the scriptures that they've twisted to fit their doctrine at their own convenience. It could be the history of the organization and their involvement with several nefarious organizations in the earlier 20th century. And if you have done research on that, then you know exactly who I'm talking about. If you haven't, just look up the Declaration of Facts by Joseph Rutherford. It's a letter that he wrote to a special somebody in Germany. Or the other obvious doctrinal reason people wake up is the fact that it's a last days religion, right? It's an end of world religion. So anytime your doctrine is centered around end of the world, you are basically a religion with a shelf life. Because every day that goes by that the world doesn't end, more and more people are going to wake up. And I was one of those people. Because the whole concept of last days and everything, it just doesn't add up. And then prophecy of 607 and all that, yeah, it's all nonsense. So that causes people to wake up. But those are the 4 categories I found from what causes people to wake up. If you are an ex-witness, you know you love hearing about this stuff because it's almost like, it's relatable, right? To hear somebody who was in a cult like yourself tell you why they left the cult and what was their journey in leaving. So comment what caused you to wake up down below. What category did you fall into? I've had people who reach out and book a call with me and, we just chat about what causes you to wake up. And it's so interesting. For me, the doctrine about the last days was what woke me up. But then like one guy straight up told me it was about counting time, which for him, the elders were just pressuring him on why he needed to make a certain amount of hours so he could be a ministerial servant. And then that caused him to like go and do research. Where in the Bible did it say we need to count time? And then that woke him up. So this stuff is just interesting on why people decide to leave this cult. That's all I got for you guys on this one. Hope you're doing well. Much love to you all and see you guys in the next one.